do I have the infamous Chris Mabrey Comedic Hypnotist. So tell me, Chris, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it for a long time. So I got into it when I was 9. I started doing shows at 14, so about 22 years.
Wow. But I see that you're actually trained. So if you've been doing it that long, how did you become trained? How would it happen?
Let's see. So the backstory of how I got into hypnosis is a whole other story, I guess. But my dad was a pretty famous entertainer, and his best friend was the #1 hypnotist in the U.S. And so, and one other friend was a guy in Vegas that was doing shows, and they kind of took me under their wing at 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on. And I just became I guess you could say an open book to them. Whatever they told me to do, I did, and I kept learning. And then I went and got a hypnotherapy, a psychotherapy, a psychology background, and an NLP master prac. So okay. I tried to learn everything I possibly could about the mind.
I'm kind of curious. When did you make your first money? At what age? Do you remember?
My first paid event, I was 14 years old. It wasn't very good, and I failed many times after that and before that. And I called it failing forward. And the cool thing is I had a great support system around me that would just coach me up instead of breaking me down, if that makes sense.
Okay. So you went on to get a master's degree in hypnosis, a hypnotist, and you're a hypnotherapist. Do you practice?
So yeah, I do. I do a lot of one-on-ones. I do a lot different than a lot of people do because I don't want to have an office and I don't want to sit there. And I usually just do a phone session, and then I make you a customized download. And the reason I recommend that is overall it's cheaper, and then on top of that, a lot of time people look at a problem and say, "Hey, I have this tree in my life I need to get rid of," and it's like, no, it's not the tree or those big roots that you see. I got to find those little tiny roots that feed those big roots, and if I can kill those, it kills the root, which kills the tree, and that habit changes, or it changes positive or negative depending on what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay, I don't know what a master's in NLP is. What's that?
It's called neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay, I still don't know what that is.
So, I mean, it's just another form of using the mind. I guess it's a way of, I'm not going to say controlling the mind, but trying to understand of why we do what we do, and being able to recognize, I guess you could say, the habit of, hey, I do this every day. And it's kind of like little things like this. And I always tell people, it sounds weird, but when I go to the same place, if I go to the gym every day, put it that way, when I am home, I don't ever use the same locker. I don't ever park in the same spot. And the reason why is it doesn't create a habit, so my mind's constantly having to think outside of its little world.
Okay. I've interviewed a lot of hypnotists, and there are some of them that tell me, I've interviewed some that say that do this for professional living and make fairly good money at it, and they don't have any professional training at all. Do you think professional training is necessary?
Here's how I would describe that is, if you want, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but in my theory of life is, if you want to be great at something, why not try to learn as much as you can about it, and then while doing that, be able to take action. So my thought was, growing up, and the people that trained me said, hey, go get a hypnotherapy, go learn more about anyone in this industry that's ever done it. Be the best there ever was. And I got trained by some of the top guys in not only the hypnosis world, but the motivational speaking world as well. So anytime I could grab a new opportunity to grow, I jumped on it. Sometimes it wasn't always beneficial for my career. It's like, oh man, I can't do shows during this time. But it's like, hey, I'm gonna learn something that I'm gonna be able to apply that no one else. Even if I get one thing, I'm applying something different than anyone else. And that's kind of what my show has separated itself from everyone else's. My show is very modern. I'm probably one of the fastest hypnotists in the country, but that's not something to brag about unless you have a high success rate. So when I put 20 people on stage, I almost always keep 20 people. And I can do it in about 3 minutes, if that makes sense. So my show, instead of being mystical and, I'm a hypnotist, I've erased all that from my show. It's fun, it's upbeat. I'm no different than the person that I'm hypnotizing anyway, whether they're a sushi chef or a trash man. I'm just a hypnotist. So I just try to treat people we're all equal. And I try to use my benefits and the things I've learned in my career to help change people's lives outside of the comedy side, which for me is also the main reason I do it.
Okay, let's back up a minute. Comedians. I've had interviewed a lot of people, and some of them, of course, they didn't start out as a comedian. They made it part of their act. And some of them have told me that it was pretty hard to do that. So it doesn't sound to me like you were a natural-born comedian. So how did you get into that?
Oh, definitely was probably the class clown growing up, so that helped.
That's cheating.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helped them. And I guess when people told me I couldn't do something, for me, that was always a motivation, if that made sense. And I had a lot of people in my younger life, when they're like, what are you going to do when you get older? Here's a cool backstory. In 6th grade, I wrote a letter to myself. And I had that same teacher in 6th grade, and he moved up to 7th grade and 8th grade. And 4 years ago, I went to lunch with him, and he said, I never sent these out. But before I did, I decided I was going to read them and see how much people changed and people I could get in touch with. And he goes, what's funny is everything you wrote, you're doing and more. Literally to a T. You said you're going to be doing this, you're doing it. And he's like, not only are you doing it, as far as what I can see, you're one of the best in the country. So he's like, it's almost, he's like, I wanted to personally take you to lunch and give this to you and read it to you because I thought it was so amazing that not only did you stick with it, but you did exactly what you said you're going to do. Oh. And for me, that's awesome. For me, that was pretty cool. It was like, wow, I wrote that in 6th grade. Okay, awesome.
So you've never really wanted to be anything else?
No, maybe a running back or a wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't think that was ever a possibility.
Oh well, you never know.
I never played football, so that didn't help either.
Okay, so you've been seen on NBC, and how did that happen?
Oh man, just kind of something like this, working with people or working with one guy and being like, hey, do this, and hey, come on our TV show, or come do an interview, or so just kind of the same idea. And that's what I always try to treat people fairly and equally, and I respect people the exact same, whether it's a billionaire or a guy on the street. I'm going to treat you the same because respect can be earned or lost. And I just met the right people and took the opportunities when they were there.
Okay, so you must do a lot of shows a year still, right?
Oh my gosh, yes, that's all I do. Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Portland right now doing the Washington County Fair, which is I'm told is big as the State Fair of Oregon, so if not bigger. Okay,
all right. And so where else you going this summer? Do you know?
Oh yeah, I can kind of give you a quick rundown. I'm going to Idaho right after this. I don't have a day off at all. I go over to Montana. I'm going to Downey, Idaho, which is right by Pocatello, and then I go to Glasgow, Montana, which is a small little town, but it's a fun little town. I just got done doing the Mesa County Fair, which is awesome to be able to work locally. I don't do that very often. And from there, I go to, oh man, I'm all over the place. And then I'm back in Washington, and then I do Colorado State Fair, and then I have some stuff in Texas, Florida, back in Washington, and then it looks like I'm possibly going to be doing the Arizona State Fair again.
Okay, all right. So are you a married man?
I'm married. Yes, I've been married for quite a long time, actually. I married my best friend from 8th grade, so that's me and her have 2 little beautiful girls together, and 2 daughters, 2.5 daughters if you count our dog.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here's a question for you. I always like to ask you hypnosis guys this question.
Yeah.
Do you use hypnosis on your kids?
On my kids, yes.
It's cheating.
Yes, it's not only it's beneficial too. I mean, it's to kind of give you an example. My youngest daughter, she was struggling with gymnastics a little bit, just confidence wise. Overall, she's super athletic. And I worked with her quite a bit when I could when I was home. And I was like, hey, listen to this when I'm gone. And she just took sixth in the state, which is pretty awesome. And she probably would have got better, but she fell off the beam, and she still got sixth. So I would say that's a pretty amazing accomplishment for an 8-year-old.
I agree with that. I still think it's cheating as a parent. It's cheating.
hey, you can call what you want. It's something we all have the ability to use.
Okay, what does your wife do? I mean, is she just a housewife?
Yeah, she does our books. We have a couple of little companies, so she does the bookkeeping and manages a little bit of it when I'm gone. And she was a bookkeeper for another huge electric company in the oil field. And when they decided to close their doors, they kept her on only for a year out of all of her employees. And when she got done, she's like, "What am I going to do?" And I said, "Babe, you want to know what's cool? Is my whole life I always dreamed of being a superhero or a hypnotist. And that, you know, I'm living my dream. When you were a kid, you dreamed of being a mom and you played dollhouse, right? And doing that." I was like, "Don't go back to work right now. Live your dream. Be a mom." So she's an awesome mom, and yeah, she's our biggest support system. Without mom, I think we'd all fall apart.
Okay, so people can request private sessions with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do they do that?
Simply a phone call. I mean, it's a phone call, an email, something. And it's one of those things. Is I kind of explain it to you as, hey, if you want to do this, I'll talk to you for 5 minutes or so for free, 10 minutes. But if you want to sit down and do something, I'm going to charge you, and then we're going to set together an hour and a half. I usually talk to you, if it was for you, for an example, one-on-one, and then I usually will ask to talk to someone you're close with, whether it's a husband, a wife, a parent. And the only reason why is sometimes it's good to get that outer perspective. And then I usually go write you a script, and usually before I record it, I will call you back and ask you a couple more questions because things pop up when I sit down, and all I'm doing the whole time is taking notes. So I'll be like, "Oh man, I missed this," and I really want to make sure you get the results you're looking for. I've worked with some of the biggest CEOs in San Francisco, some of the biggest corporation CEOs. I've worked with multiple NBA players and NFL players, whether it was to change the way their hip was moving, the way their arm dropped, whether it was a stance, because it was such a engraved habit, they had a hard time breaking it. And the results I have from that are just, they're out of this world. I'm just going to say 100% success rate on everybody I've worked with one-on-one.
Okay, so what's been your best hypnosis show experience, do you think? Where?
Oh, man. Do you want to know what? I'm so blessed to be able to do what I love, and I'm not going to give you a place or a name because some of I would say if I had to give you one of my coolest spots is I worked the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, California. That's like that's the most famous comedy club in the world. So that was there, and that was a pretty awesome opportunity.
And Chris, I always ask this question too. What's been your worst experience that made you think about whether you wanted to keep doing this?
I think when I was young, I think I was 17. I was in Bakersfield, California, and I got offered I was working with another hypnotist that trained me. I was bouncing back and forth, and he said, "Why don't you open the show for Joan Jett tonight?" I was like, "What?" And I bombed my induction.
Oh.
So, and coolest part about it is Joan Jett in the back came to me and she said, "Hey, you get out there and you rock it on the show because I need to do my show. I need them pumped up first." She grabbed me by the shirt. I went back out there and I did it again, which was really hard to do as a hypnotist. And I rocked it, and I had an awesome 40-minute show, and I opened up for Joan Jett.
Well, good for you. I think that's terrific.
Remember me, but I remember her very well.
Sounds like it. I bet you would. Okay, so how do people reach you?
It's super easy. On my website, I'm 100% available. Sometimes people call me off my website, and I'm like, "Hello?" And they're like, "Is this Chris?" "Yes, it is. Can I help you?" And I think it's kind of a shocker that I never wanted to have a 1-800 number. And the reason why is because the stuff I do sell at my shows on my downloads for quit smoking and lose weight, it's a lot cheaper than one-on-ones. They do work, but I want to be available so that way if you ever have a question or a concern, like, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," I want to be an open-ended book to be able to use my resources from my life and my experiences to help you get the results you're looking for. And then on top of that, I love being a comedy stage hypnotist, and I love growing and working in new events. So I don't want you to have to call a 1-800 number and try to get a hold of me. If you want to book me, call me. I'll pick my phone up, and we can make a deal work out or make sense, and it's a win-win situation. Then, yeah, I would love to be part of an event or whatever you have going on where my life's work to be part of your lasting memories for the event you're trying to put on.
Okay. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. Thank you, Chris.
Hey, you have a blessed rest of your day, and yeah, thank you so much. If you have any questions that pop up or anything, please let me know.
I will do that. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.